Hi everyone, this is Enormous with TekDefense, and today we're going to talk about proxy chains in TekTip episode 10. So hi everyone, today we're going to talk about proxy chains on this episode. Proxy chains is a tool that allows us to force connections through multiple proxies. What really makes this tool special is that we're able to put applications that normally don't work or don't have native functions for proxies. We can put it through a proxy, and not just one, but we can chain from one proxy to another, to another, to another. Now, the reasons we would do this on a pen test, maybe we know the customer is looking for us to come from a certain IP address, so we're going to make ourselves come from a different IP address. Or maybe we want to measure the reaction that a customer has when dealing with a threat from a foreign nation versus one that happens from internally. So there's a lot of methods to use this on a pen test, and for more nefarious purposes, just hiding your tracks. On the defensive side, before we get into showing you, actually what this tool does, but on the defensive side, what should you be doing to defend against people that are using proxy chains? Well, proxy chains or proxies in general are usually out there listed. So if people are generally using these free ones that are available through various websites, monitor those websites and use NetFlow, whatever tools you have available to you, to detect if anybody is coming from a proxied address. So keep that in mind on the defense side of the house. So to get started, I'm going to go into the config for proxy chains, which is in /proxychains.conf. By default on Backtrack, and luckily Proxy Chains is installed by default on Backtrack. If you're not running Backtrack and you want to get Proxy Chains, head over to the proxychains.sourceforge.net and grab it there. So cd/etc and let's proxychains.conf. So here is the config file. So you'll see we have three main modes for proxy chains. So you have dynamic mode, strict, and random. And I've gone and summed them up over here for you. So dynamic is going to go through all the proxies that are changed, or you chain them all in the order that are listed down here. So it's going to do it in the order that you specify down there, and if it comes across a dead proxy, it's just going to skip it. Strict mode, it's going to do the same thing, except if it comes across a dead proxy, it's not going to fulfill the request. And then random, as you see here, which is the mode I have selected right now, as you can tell by it's not commented out. So random will choose connections at random from your list. So you'll always be coming from different sources and destinations depending on how many proxies you have listed. In addition, if you're doing random, there's also an option called chain length, and this lets you specify how many of these proxies to use when making that random chain. So if you want to use 2, you want to use 4, however many you want in here. Keep in mind, while you are masking what you're doing by using proxy chains, you're also going to be going a lot slower. Another important option to mention is proxy DNS. If we had this line commented out, this would be off, and thus anytime we try to say use proxy chains to open Firefox and then go to google.com, all of our DNS requests would go on proxy, so they would come from our actual address. Depending on what you're doing, that may or may not be a bad thing. But if you want to also mask your DNS request, have this option set like I have it here, and then you'll be set. obviously things are going to go slower because every DNS request will have to go through a proxy at that point. You also have the ability to set your timeouts. I'm going to go ahead and skip that. And then last but not least, and this is a pretty easy config file as you can tell already, we also have the ability to choose what proxies we're going to use. So I just went to some random proxy site and I just googled SOCKS 5 proxy and then just started listing everyone I could find. And the ones that you see uncommented there are ones that didn't work when I was doing my initial test. They timed out. So that's something to note when you're using free proxies. They're not always going to work. But these two guys seem to be pretty reliable. At least they were about 5 minutes ago. So we'll find out in a second. But you list them by type of proxy, the IP address, and then the port of the proxy. Now, while I'm using free proxies here, generally what I'm using this for is I'm going to have, or I have several VPSs out there where I can proxy all of my connections through. So generally, my config file will look a lot different, where I'd have just the proxies that I've specified that are my own private proxies that run a little faster than these free ones, and then additionally, I have the ability to modify them at will if I want to use a different port or something like that. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of this file. I'm in Nano, so Control O to write out, and Control X to exit. And now we have the ability to run proxy chains. So this is a pretty simple one. Let's just go ahead and first let's do curl, and what I'm going to do is show you what my current IP address is, and then we'll show you what it looks like after we run it through proxy chains. Alright, so curl and config.me, that's the IP address I'm coming from specifically right now. And now let's go ahead and do proxy chains curl.config.me. So you can see it creating the chain for the DNS, as you can see by going to Google DNS 4.2.2.2. It got a response back saying, alright, hey, this is my IP address for ifconfig.me. So now we're actually trying to connect to that. And hopefully they won't time out as we're trying to connect through. And we did. So let's try it one more time. This will happen a few times just because I'm using public addresses. So there you go. So now I'm no longer coming from that. I'm coming from this proxy here. 222.186.52.22. So it's that easy. So now we can run any program just in the same fashion. So if I type in, say, Proxy Chains Firefox. So again, it's going to attempt to establish that connection and then open up Firefox. And there we go. Let's go ahead and start a new session. So if I go over here, you'll see it already doing the DNS request for everything that's already loading in Firefox. But now everything I do in this browser, so if I was to go to, say, google.com, it's going pretty slow for me, so I'm going to go ahead and pause real quick while we wait for this to catch up. Okay, seems to be running a little bit faster now. But again, because we're using those public proxies and they're in different countries, it's being rather slow. So now if I hit google.com, and we'll let it run for a second. Right now it's doing its DNS. So you can see it doing it down here. So it's doing all the Google DNS stuff it needs to do, and then it's going to try to connect me. And you can see, based on what it's trying to resolve, I'm no longer coming from the Americas. Excuse me, I got kind of a cold today. So as you can see, it's loading up google.com.hk, which is in a different language, obviously. So pretty cool. I'm gonna go ahead and cancel out of that. Let's clear, and let's do another example. We'll do one last one. So say proxy chains x hydra. All right. So say we wanted to run some brute force password cracking against a particular web application for a customer or something of that manner. We would obviously put the appropriate address in here, and by running it in proxy chains, even though here we have the ability to run a proxy natively within the app, I don't have to do that anymore because it's already going to run everything through proxy chains. So if I put my name, so we'll go with root, and let's do the password list, and we'll go to pen test passwords, and we got a word list in here. Yeah. So my dark code list, which would 17.1 megs of passwords to try. And of course we can set up our normal settings if we wanted to, but we don't really need to. Now if I went here and hit start, it would start running this against this IP address, which of course is the loopback, so it's not going to run. But it would start running it, and it would use proxy chains for each one of them. So just to show you that we're actually able to use proxy chains to do this, I'm just going to pick something that I know doesn't really matter. So in fact, alright, so we'll use my own website, TekDefense IP address as an example. So 5.39.205.54. I could also put a whole target list in here, but it's not really a demonstration of xHydra as much as it is of proxy chains. So already specified a password list. We're going to tell it to use SSH, although that doesn't matter on this machine. So go ahead and hit start, and you'll see in here proxy chains is already in action. So for every connection, it's going to proxy through those two free proxies that we've already specified. And yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and stop that. So that's proxy chains. Check it out. It's definitely cool. It'll help out a lot in pen test. And keep an eye on those proxy lists if you're on the defensive side. As always, you can hit me up at enormous@TekDefense.com. If you want to see more videos like this, head to TekDefense.com itself. You could also see most of those videos at securitytube.net/user/enormous. And of course, if you go to youtube.com/user/TekDefense, you'll see my videos there as well. Please hit me up if you got any questions, comments, or concerns. Thanks.